Dr. Sam Rushworth.
Thank you, Mrs Harris, and I can also thank my honourable friend, the member for North Northumberland, for securing this debate. I was with him the day that his appointment was announced, and it was after many weeks of us all sort of asking Downing Street, will they appoint an envoy? And he kept it quiet until it was announced, but I was so pleased that it was my friend who was given that responsibility, because I cannot think of anybody better to take on that role. Yeah. And can also thank everyone who's spoken today. Every speech today has moved me in some way. And I think it's a testament really to the way that freedom of religion or belief goes to the heart of our British values, that we sit in absolute cross-party consensus on this. And it's a testament really to our nation that we can have this level of civility in our debate, and I can look across the other side and see people who I hold in high regard, notwithstanding our different views on various aspects of policy. Yeah. And with that, I'd like to join Member for Salisbury in his tribute to Fiona Bruce in the role that she played. I had the privilege of working with Fiona when she was organising the ministerial in 2022. And the fact that I was a Labour candidate at the time and she a Conservative MP never came into it, because we were both absolutely unified in a sense of purpose. I had the blessing of being able to work briefly for about a year and a half on freedom of religion or belief. My background is actually in conflict prevention and human rights. And despite a decade in that space, when a friend asked me, would I be willing to come and support government relations around FoRB, I thought I was being asked to work for a US business magazine because I hadn't actually heard that phrase before, which I think shows that we've got some work to do. But I soon came to grips with the brief and came to develop a really deep appreciation for the importance of specifically freedom of religion or belief within the human rights work and the work that we do around the world to prevent identity-based violence. But as I entered this new world, I entered with a critical eye, and I'd just like to sort of mention 2 or 3 things that I've noted, and a bit of a kind of call to all of us really that care about FoRB. One is that we need to look outwards and not inwards. I think we need to avoid a competition over which group is the most persecuted, and instead recognise that establishing universal principles of FoRB is the best way to secure freedoms and rights for everybody. Secondly, FoRB does not give a right to impose one's religion or beliefs on others. And my old friend, the member for Morecambe and Loonsdale, spoke so well already about the importance of combating anti-blasphemy laws and that crucial right to be able to not believe in deity. Thirdly, those of us that do come from a background of faith need to also recognise that the price of the freedom to practice our religion is to do no harm and to take responsibility. And I think we need to do more sometimes to reach out to the LGBT community and others who have been historically marginalised and excluded. And that includes internationally. I have groups of people both in Uganda, near where I used to work, who are in that community and are suffering intense persecution. And it's in the name, sadly, of the God that I worship that persecution is being meted out. And also people from Afghanistan who regularly reach out to me and tell me that they are currently living in a state of hiding, akin to Anne Frank and her family, for fear of being exposed. And thirdly, that we need to emphasise the belief aspect of freedom of religion or belief, and that includes humanism, the right not to believe, and that the right to share one's faith must also entail the right to criticise that faith. I'm a Latter-day Saint. I see the Book of Mormon musical on the West End all the time. I'm comfortable with that. I absolutely defend a right for people to criticise me or to criticise my faith. But there is a difference between criticising theological beliefs and stereotyping or ascribing negative traits without evidence to the holders of those beliefs. And there is likewise a difference between mocking a religion in its abstract or its organised form and discriminating against an individual who identifies with it. And finally, if I may say, and I want to speak for a moment to the strategy, and this is a small point, but I think it's a really consequential one. But we tend to think about our commitment to freedom of religion or belief in terms of negative rights, of protecting people from interference against sort of infringements of their freedoms of conscience, speech or assembly. But I would like to suggest that for the UK to truly lead the world with our values, we need to assume our positive duty to enable those who are marginalised and persecuted to live in accordance with their faith and belief. And we recognise this in our humanitarian response to war and disaster. We recognise the need for food, water, medicine and shelter. But could we also recognise the need for dignity and the emotional and psychological need to live one's faith? And could we not only allow people to live their religions, but actively assist them to do so? I've seen great examples of this around the world, from the youth in the Central African Republic, Muslim and Christian youth who work together to rebuild each other's mosques and churches, to the Ammar Foundation in Iraq helping Yazidi refugees, particularly women and girls, find healing and empowerment through traditional religious clothing that they had to leave behind in their flight against ISIS. And to members of my... May I take an intervention? Sorry, apologies. I'm almost finished. To members of my own church, the Latter-day Saints here in London, who give out copies of the Quran to refugees. So as we do this, let Britain continue to be a beacon for religious freedom around the world in an active sense.